Okay, this lesson is all about the partitive article in French. Now, don't panic, don't worry. I know it's got what sounds like a really daunting name, partitive article, but actually it's these little words that we find in front of our noun that we actually use really quite regularly, and in English they translate as some or any. And what we use them for is when we want to refer to an unspecified quantity of something. So quite common with food there. So an unspecified quantity of something. So think, for example, of cheese. Imagine you wanted a cheese toastie, or let's be a little bit more French there, un croque monsieur. You want some cheese in there. It's unlikely you're going to specify a certain number of grams, 125 grams of cheese in your cheese toastie. You're far more likely to say, I'd like some cheese. Similarly, imagine you're in the fish and chip shop, you're ordering fish and chips. You wouldn't specify how many chips you wanted. Maybe if you're on a diet, you'd limit yourself to 8 chips or something, but generally we ask for some chips. And similarly, you might ask them if they have any chips. Okay, we're not being very specific there. So it's an unspecified quantity of something. And it's exactly the same. Well, it's very similar in French. Okay, so we use it to say some or any. The first instance, in a, and this is key here, in a positive sentence or question, I suppose. Positive sentence or question. That's really important about this positive. We'll find out why in a little bit. But in a positive sentence or question, it translates in English as some or any. So let's see how we do that in French. So let's go with tu veux, keep my theme from earlier, tu veux du fromage. Okay, do you want some cheese? Or do you want any cheese? Okay, not all the cheese, okay, but some of it. Tu veux du fromage? So du here translating as some or any. What about this one here? Tu veux de la pizza? Tu veux de la pizza? Do you want some pizza? Translating here as some, I suppose. Any, do you want any pizza? Want some pizza? Yeah, it works in both, doesn't it, in English? Okay, so de la here becoming some or any. Let's move away from questions. Let's have I want. So je voudrais. Which is not a sentence my children are ever going to utter, but let's go with it anyway. Je voudrais des légumes. Je voudrais des légumes. I would like some vegetables. So my day here being some. Or, whoops, where did that go to? Sorry about that, guys. Je voudrais, what could we have? Je voudrais de l'ail. De l'ail. So I would like some garlic. Again, not something I think my children will say very often, but I think more likely than I would like some vegetables, got to be honest. I would like some garlic. So de l being some here. So what we can see here is we've got 4 different ways of saying the very same thing in English. Now, hopefully you're starting to come to terms with this idea that in French our nouns have gender. And we can see here, fromage is a masculine noun. And it's masculine singular. It's only one of it. There's no S on the end. It's just some cheese. Du fromage. Whereas my pizza is feminine singular. My légumes are plural. And my ail here is masculine singular. And because of their gender, because of their number, so singular or plural, the way we express the article some or any in French is going to change each time. So it's really important that we understand the key foundation behind that, and that we also know the gender of the noun that we're using it with. So if you're unsure about that, please go back and watch the tutorial about determining the gender of nouns in French. So let's put that into a little chart then. So we want to say some. we want to say any. Okay, and we've got different ways of doing that, haven't we? So we've got a masculine singular noun. I'll just keep my colour the same quickly. Masculine or plural. Okay, we can have a feminine singular noun. We can have a masculine or feminine plural noun. And the options for that then, we've got du, meaning some or any, de la, meaning some or any, and des. And we've also got this option up here. You can see de, L apostrophe, de, L apostrophe. Okay, that's because we would use that when the noun that follows starts with a vowel or a silent H. Now, you might be wondering, okay, where these come from. You might not, but I'm going to tell you anyway. This is just a little extra. We don't need to know this, but it might help some of you to understand what's going on here with the language. Now, what du actually is the contraction of de and le. And de and le together form du. Okay, which I suppose translates of the, which does make sense in these. If you go back up, je voudrais du fromage, I would like some of the cheese. Okay, we don't put the of the in there, but we could say that, couldn't we? Okay, some of the cheese. So my du has contracted to form, my de and le have contracted to form du. Okay, my de, la stay the same, so meaning some of the, or any of the in the feminine sense. It now makes a little bit more sense, hopefully, why we're having de and L apostrophe for some of the, any of the. Okay, they're not contracting. And my last one here, de, okay, is a contraction of de and le. So, of the. So what we're literally saying here is, je voudrais des légumes, I would like some of the vegetables. Okay, so my of and my the have merged together. If you can see my hands right now, I'm pushing them together. It doesn't help you guys, but you know, my hands are pushing together to say we've contracted to form this word des. So that's where they come from. So don't really need to know that, but a little extra for those of you wondering where these words have appeared from. Okay, now I did say up here, didn't I? That's why I'm not sure if you can see that. I did say up here that we use it to mean, or we use these partitive articles here to mean some or any in a positive sentence or question. So what happens in a negative sentence? Okay, so in negative sentences we use, and let's find out what we use. Okay, so let's take some examples. So let's go with the question here. Tu as du pain? Do you have any bread? My answer is going to be je n'ai pas. And watch what happens here. My du becomes de. Je n'ai pas de pain. So my negative sentence, I don't have it. I've got my negatives in here. Je n'ai pas de. My du has changed to de. Okay, for a negative. So we can say here negative sentences, we use de, or we also use d apostrophe. Okay, to mean, to mean some or any. Okay, so je n'ai pas de pain. I don't have any bread. We wouldn't really say I don't have some bread, do we? It would sound a bit strange, but let's look at another example. Okay, tu as de la pizza? Okay, do you have any pizza? Tu as de la pizza? My answer then is going to be je n'ai pas, and watch what happens again, de pizza. So it doesn't matter here whether my noun is masculine, or whether my noun is feminine. Okay, it's going to be the same word each time, de. It also doesn't matter if it's plural, so we'd say je n'ai pas de légumes, I don't have any vegetables. Okay, the only time it would change is to this d apostrophe, which you might have guessed. Okay, so we would say je n'ai pas d'ail. I don't have any garlic. Okay, je n'ai pas d'ail. It's changed to the apostrophe. Remember, because the apostrophe is replacing the E here because it's followed by a vowel or a word that starts with a silent H. Okay, so here can we see how in our positive sentences we're using the du, we're using the de la, or we're using the de, or de in an apostrophe, whereas our negative sentences, okay, we're just using the de. Okay, so I don't have of bread, I suppose it translates to, but we're just getting rid of the le, the la, or the le bit, and we're just using it by itself, and that's really key for us to remember. The final thing I'm going to tell you about then, before I let you get on, is there are instances in English when we don't use the word some or any. So when English omits some or any. Okay, and so think, for example, do you want some sugar? Okay, or do you want, we could say, do you want sugar in your coffee? Now we can say, do you want sugar in your coffee? Or we can say, do you want some sugar in your coffee? Do you want any sugar in your coffee? Okay, but in French, we don't get that option. We have to have the some or any in there. We do not get to decide to leave it out. It simply would not make sense. Let's have a look. Tu veux. Now sugar is masculine, so it's du. Sucre, it's also du, because it's a positive sentence here, isn't it? There's no negative involved, so using du. Tu veux du sucre dans or avec ton café. Tu veux du sucre avec ton café. Okay, if I decide to leave that out, tu veux sucre dans or avec ton café, okay, that would not make sense. That would be incorrect in French. Although in English we do have the option of leaving it out, okay, we don't in French. It doesn't work like that, I'm afraid. Okay, let's think of another example just to finish off. So, do you want bread? Do you want bread with your soup? Okay, do you want bread? So let's go with tu veux. Bread is masculine. Tu veux pain. Okay, I've translated it word for word there, haven't I? Do you want? Tu veux, or it could be veux-tu. Bread, pain. But I'm missing something. Okay, I cannot have my noun left by itself though in French. Okay, it doesn't like being alone. It wants something to go with it. It wants an article or an adjective in front. So stop and think, what am I actually saying here? Do you want bread? Well, what I'm really saying is, do you want some bread? Or do you want any bread? Aren't I? So, my word for some or any in a positive sentence is du. Tu veux du pain? Do you want some bread? Okay, so just to recap then, very briefly, the partitive article means some or any in a positive sentence, okay, expressed as du, de la, de l'apostrophe. In a negative sentence, okay, can also mean some or any. However, we have to change it. We no longer use the du, de la, or de. We just use the de apostrophe. And be very aware of instances when in English we don't use it at all. We just leave it out. But in French we have to. Okay, we have to use it. We don't get the option of leaving it out.